Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are going to talk about identifying the setting within our stories and within other stories. We're going to look at some examples together and talk about what the setting is. So our goal today is to understand the importance of the setting and describe our own story settings in great detail, which is important. We're going to describe it in detail for the reader. So how important is the setting? The setting is what creates a stage for the character. So without a strong setting, the character doesn't have the detail the reader is looking for. It helps the readers understand the character a little bit more. So think about how much the setting changes the way that Rob and Sistine act in The Tiger Rising. So they're both in this town that they don't really love. Neither of them really love. And Sistine is pretty vocal about how much she does not want to be there. So that affects how she acts. And also Rob, he's already really sad about losing his mom. And now he's in this town that he doesn't like being in. He's living in a motel and the people there are not very kind to him. And so this definitely affects the way that he acts around other people, and it especially affects the way that they act towards each other. So sometimes we get caught up in our ideas and forget to include these things about our setting. So the setting is not only where, but it's also when. So it is when and where the story takes place. So here's some examples of when. It doesn't have to be right at an exact time. You don't need to write in your story at 2:15 p.m. we did this, they did this, my character did this. It can be morning, it can be 2020, it can be tomorrow, it can be in the future, it can be yesterday, last year. These are all examples of when. And some examples of where are at school, at home, at a baseball game, in the cafeteria, at the store. All these are good examples of where a story could take place. So you don't need to tell your readers or the audience exactly what the setting is by saying, the setting is this, or this is Friday at 2:15 p.m. in the courtyard. You do not need to say that. Sometimes we can do a lot more of showing and not telling within our stories that make it a little bit more detailed and a little bit more exciting to read. So let's look at how Kate DiCamillo sets the stage at the beginning of The Tiger Rising. That morning, after he discovered the tiger, Rob went and stood under the Kentucky Star Motel sign and waited for the school bus just like it was any day. So already it starts with that morning. So we know it's in the morning, and with it just being in the morning, we could guess, oh, he's probably getting ready for school, which she says at the end of the sentence, he was waiting for the school bus just like it was any other day. And she also, still within this first sentence, gives us a hint about where Rob is. So Rob went and stood under the Kentucky Star Motel sign. Well, if he's standing under a sign for a motel, he's probably at the motel. The sign isn't going to be very far from the motel. Let's keep reading. The Kentucky Star sign was composed of a yellow neon star that rose and fell over a piece of blue neon in the shape of the state of Kentucky. Rob liked the sign. He harbored a dim but abiding notion that it would bring him good luck. Finding the tiger had been luck. He knew that. He had been out in the woods behind the Kentucky Star Motel, way out in the woods, not really looking for anything, just wondering, hoping that maybe he would get lost or get eaten by a bear and not have to go to school ever again. That's when he saw the old Beauchamp gas station building, all boarded up and tumbling down. Next to it, there was a cage, and inside the cage, unbelievable, there was a tiger. So now we know that there's a big woods that's pretty deep because it said he was way far out in the woods. That's behind the motel, the Kentucky Star Motel, which is where he was standing by when he was waiting for the bus. And we also know that a future setting is probably going to be school because he's talked about waiting for the school bus and not wanting to go to school. So now we have, this is in the morning on a school day because he's getting ready for school. So that's the when, where, he's at the Kentucky Star Motel, and we also know that this motel has woods behind it and a school nearby that Rob rides the bus to. So Kate DiCamillo doesn't say exactly, there is a motel where Rob lives, there is woods behind the motel. She more describes it so that readers can get a sense of where Rob is and imagine it for themselves in their heads. So let's look at Mr. Hoffman's opening scene with Will. Will shuffled his feet across the shiny, polished floor. So already in the first sentence, your readers are imagining there's a shiny, polished floor, and maybe they're thinking, where would I see a shiny, polished floor? For me, I think of the tile that's in a cafeteria. Even before I know what's going on, at a cafeteria floor, or maybe like a Walmart or something, there's a shiny tile floor, and that's what that first sentence makes me think of. He had just spotted the table with an open seat next to Travis. Will went to hurry to the seat, and he could feel the weight of the lunch tray shifting from one hand to another. Okay, so we know he's probably in the cafeteria because he has a lunch tray, and he's probably not going to have a lunch tray if he's not planning to eat lunch soon. All of a sudden, there was a loud bang. Will looked down at his shoes that were covered with ketchup and applesauce, the empty lunch tray on the floor next to his feet. He could hear a roar of laughter break out all over the cafeteria. So now, Mr. Hoffman, the writer, tells us that they are in the cafeteria. So now that's been confirmed, but he already gave us a lot of hints before then that told us he was in the cafeteria. And also we know it's lunchtime, so it's probably around noon or the middle of the day. Will could feel his cheeks as if they were on fire. His palms started to sweat, and he could feel his heart beating faster and faster. Then he quickly pulled up his hood and sprinted out of the large doors and into the hallway. So now the setting is changing. It's going into the hallway. So we know where the scene of the story took place. That's in the cafeteria. And when it's taking place, around lunchtime. So probably around noon. So your job today is continue to work on your story and pay close attention and make sure you add details as you write. Are you helping your reader understand when and where the story takes place by describing the setting? And just so you guys know, the setting can change within your story. So probably from scene to scene, which you should have multiple scenes by now, you probably won't be in the same place, or your character won't be in the same place for every single scene. In chapter books, the setting is a lot more complicated than it is in picture books. When you're writing a chapter book, the story's longer. So your characters are going to be in lots of different places. So what you guys need to do is you guys are going to work on your story, and this is due tomorrow. This is not due today, but this is due tomorrow, and you need to work on it today because you guys should have a lot done. If you don't have multiple scenes by now, quite a few scenes and an intro, kind of an opening scene, then you guys need to make sure that you're catching up and making sure you're on track. All right, so we will see you tomorrow for writing, and good luck.